Hello folks, and welcome back to another army composition video here in Shogun Total War. I am Kanastep, and today I'm going to be covering Clan Imagawa. Now, Clan Imagawa, when coming up with a unique army composition, presented a pretty fun and interesting challenge because, as you may know, Clan Imagawa doesn't actually have any in-game unit bonuses that sort of point you into any certain directions. Their clan bonuses are for the ninja and the shinobi. They do get discounts for those units, and those are both strategy map units. They're agents, so they're not battlefield units, right? So you might be kind of left thinking, well, what do I do with an Imagawa army composition? Well, because they are kind of leaning toward ninjas, right? Well, we do happen to have a battlefield ninja making up one of the units that are available to us. Now, this is a unit that was added with the Mongol Invasion DLC, I'm pretty sure. So it is kind of a weird unit. It's kind of unique, and it's not the easiest thing to use, but I do think it is useful, and I think it's going to be pretty fun to include in this army composition. Now, the battlefield ninjas do come in small unit sizes. I think, is it 12 men? Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's a small unit. And the idea with them is that they are concealed anywhere on the map as long as they're not moving. Now, this is kind of a weird thing to use because if you are on the attack, well, you have to move. And if you're on the defense, sure, you can kind of maybe set them up apart from your army somewhere else that's, you know, kind of on the path to where the enemy army is going to have to attack to get to you, so that maybe you can kind of attack into a flank and get a flanking surprise attack on the enemy using these concealed ninjas, which is, I don't know, it's weird and it's hard to kind of do that because it's an expensive unit, and, you know, having them just get isolated and cut down and picked apart when they're not being supported by the rest of your army is very risky. And they take 4 turns to train, and I believe, gosh, I should have looked this up, but it is a higher tier unit. Is it a tier 4? I'm trying to remember. I haven't played this game in a while. I think tier 4 is the highest tier in this game. I don't think there's a tier 5. Jesus. I think it is a tier 4, and I think it does take 4 turns to train each unit, which is really wild because it's not, the most insanely powerful unit. They do have good combat skills, sure, but as I mentioned, it is a 12-man unit, so it can get overwhelmed. Now, there's other things that you can kind of think about, though, when you're thinking about how to use that concealed ability. And one of the ideas is that maybe what you can do is set up a situation where you have what appears to be a weak sector of the battlefield, maybe Ashgaru, hanging out, and it kind of looks like they're by themselves, or maybe a couple of archer units that look like they're by themselves. And then the enemy gets closer to try to, jump on your archers or Ashgaru or something like that. And, boom, there they are. The battlefield ninjas appear, and they can kind of turn the fight in your favor in that instance. But again, that's tough because you're really depending on the enemy not sending like an overwhelming amount of strength to that sector to deal with your, whatever units you are revealing, right? So it's a hard, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, I don't know, So there's ways to use the battlefield ninjas even within army formations that I've used that I think works quite well. And there's some unspecified abilities that might be in play here, which is that the concealed ability, the thing is that when a unit reveals itself from a concealed position, typically what you're talking about is a forest, right? That's the only other concealed position that I can think of. Typically when that happens, the enemy unit that is nearby, that is being ambushed from a concealed unit from a forest, is going to receive a morale penalty. Now, I think this is only being applied if that unit's being attacked from the flank. So it's the conditions have to be kind of just right. But that does exist. So what I've always wondered is that the morale penalty debuff thing still exist even within a battlefield ninja unit that is concealed just, out in the open, but whenever they stop moving, they get concealed again. Does the AI, forget that they're there? And for the purposes of the individual unit morale, does that get triggered still if it's still a Battlefield Ninja being revealed on the open field and not just a unit charging out from the forest? And the answer is, I don't know. I haven't done enough testing to determine whether or not this is the case. In some situations, it does feel like it is the case, but it's just one of those things that's been really difficult for me to determine with any certainty. And if any of y'all have more concrete evidence to support this, I would love to hear your stories on this. I know that one of the things that can be done is using a whole army of Battlefield Ninjas on a bridge assault, where you basically sneak them across the bridge and then you spread them out around the defending AI army. So you'd have to really take your time there and make sure you place these guys all around them. Obviously, at a distance where they're not going to get spotted, and then you cross that bridge with just one Kensai unit, and then this is going to draw in the enemy army to defend the bridge, and then you spring the trap with all 11, or no, not 11, but 15 units of Battlefield Ninja around the enemy, and I've heard that can have really, huge impacts, morale impacts, destroying the enemy morale and causing a chain rout. So that story that I've read does indicate that there would be a morale debuff to that. So that's very interesting. However, another power of the Battlefield Ninja is that they have these throwing stars that are very powerful. I don't know what they're made out of. I think they're stronger than bullets being shot by guns. It's weird how powerful the ninja stars are that are thrown by the Battlefield Ninjas. The balancing aspect to it is that they are very, very short range. I mean, very short range. So again, this is very tricky, right? You have to be very close to the enemy. You have to make sure your Battlefield Ninja are on hold position and not skirmish mode. Otherwise, they will never throw their ninja stars. And they, I don't know how many. They have a handful. They can get a couple chucks in there for sure, and they can do a bit of damage with their ninja stars. And then when they're out of ninja stars, they can, of course, charge into combat with their swords and do okay. So I think there are applications here to using these units, but because of their small unit scale, you don't. There is that idea of that bridge attacking army that I just mentioned. Other than that specific case, which I would love to try someday, I think that in general, you don't want to bring more than 2 units of these. Bringing 3 units or more, it just really does reduce the number of men that you're bringing on the battlefield. And you're going to end up in a situation where you're just going to be very outnumbered. And the numbers do matter. You're going to feel overwhelmed if you're going to be bringing more than 2 units. So I suggest just 2. Again, though, I would love to hear your thoughts on this if you've had success bringing more units. Now, to get started with the Imagawa army composition, I'm going to start out with my template that I use. If this is your first army composition video of mine that you're watching, well, I suggest you go back to my Shimazu Army Comp Revisited, because I don't want to go over all of these things over and over again, but I do like to have my Cav Archers as a general unit, and there is a way to do that. There is a way to make sure that your heirs in the campaign map do become Cav Archers. So check out my Shimazu Army Comp Revisited video to find out how I do that. And then light cav units, Yari Cav, they just have so many uses. Again, just fantastic units. I will bring at least 2 of them because in case you lose one, you still want to be able to run down the routing enemy army. And then I will bring 4 Yari Samurai, 4, not 3, and it's a good middle ground between Naginata and Yari Ashigaru. Naginata definitely have their uses, but Yari Samurai, they're not so heavily armored that they're going to get tired just walking across the map like the Naginata will. And they have a bonus versus Cav. It's a solid frontline unit that's also, better in stats than the Ashigaru, but not quite as tanky and heavy and limited as the Naginata. And then I will bring 4 Samurai Archers. And this is the unit that I think is kind of the actual backbone of the Imagawa army, because the Imagawa capital province is Totomi, and Totomi is going to give an honor bonus to Samurai Archers. Now, that's not an exciting thing, right? An honor bonus to archers is like, meh, like you kind of think that way, but as I've mentioned before, archers in this game are actually pretty good as frontline units. Like, you don't really want them to be fighting that really tough melee. I get it. You'd rather them shooting. But they can fight that frontline melee. They can do it. And with those honor bonuses that you're going to be getting from Totomi, and then just a tier 2 bow dojo building, that famous bow dojo, I think is what it's called, is going to be given an extra +1 honor. Just like that. That's +2 honor for your archers. And for each point of honor, you're going to be getting +2 morale, +1 defense, and +1 attack. That's good. That's very good. So you're going to get a unit here that is going to hold a front line, if it has to, quite well. And in this army comp, you will see that that is what I ask of them. So I'm going to bring an extra point of honor for these guys in this battle, just to sort of demonstrate that they are better than normal archers. And typically what you see in my army compositions is that I show you my template and then I break the template and I just do whatever. This is like, you know, more like a template, a frame of mind, right? Well, with this army comp, I'm actually not going to break the template. I'm going to keep it as is. You already know I'm bringing 2 Battlefield Ninja, but what about, what's that other unit that's going to be keeping this army together? And I think for me, I didn't use these units in my Imagawa campaign that I played on this channel. I was struggling to try to find out how to make this army more applicable in campaign, and there's no reason historically or gameplay-wise that makes the Nodachi Samurai fit inside of this army. I just figured that the Nodachi Samurai is a unit that I only ever used in my Shimazu armies because they get the bonus to this unit, and then I just never used them in any other faction, basically. And I thought, well, I can see them having a role here. And rather than overusing a unit like Warrior Monks that I've used in 2 army comps, you've only seen 1 so far, but there's another army comp that uses them. And I just want to get some more play out of these Nodachi Samurai. They're available at a tier 2, and they're, you know, relatively decently priced. So, you know, this is a good glass cannon unit, very high morale, and you will see how I use those. And then, of course, the Battlefield Ninja. And I'm going to be going up against my Takeda army comp, which is a very strong army comp, and I'm going to be fighting on the open field. So I don't know how that's going to go. This is a tough army to be using on the open field against a Takeda cavalry force. So wish me luck. This is how I like to form up my army here with my Imagawa army composition here. So my center, as you see, is going to be made up of my archers and my Nodachi Samurai. Now, ideally, I would rather just have all 4 archers up front, backed up by my Nodachi Samurai. In fact, I thought that I used to be able to do that, but maybe not. In any case, so this is going to be group 1, and for Count MRVHS, if you're watching this, I just wanted to point out, because you were asking, if there's a way to sort of see the unit formations here in game. Yeah, it's going to be this menu here. I never use this because I just use the numbers. Skirmish right is 6, skirmish center is 5. So this is what I'm using for this formation here. I'm just pressing 5, and then I'm getting 2 archers up front with, yeah, there was other units like this. I'm putting this unit here in wedge formation manually because it's just easier to move around. I find that wedge formation is more maneuverable. They can hit the gap, right? And they can also turn faster. So, you know, rather than a whole unit like this is going to take a while to turn around, this can sort of like maneuver in the gaps and, you know, kind of get where it needs to be. Just watch out. If it's getting shot, it's going to take damage more like faster than this unit, because units that are in a long line, there's typically arrows can go over their heads and miss them, whereas anyone that's shooting at this unit's going to hit something. So it's a bad unit for, you know, if it's getting shot by arrows or bullets. So let's get back out of this. Well, you can just, you know, this is like a way, it's not the greatest presentation of how the unit groups work. You have to kind of experiment, you know. The single line is 2, defensive is, single line is 1, defensive is 2, square formation's 3, skirmish left is 4, skirmish center is 5, skirmish right is 6, and then left-hand offensive is 7, center offensive is 8, and then right-hand offensive is 9. But you just have to kind of like, the little, you know, diagrams and pictures there kind of show you how it would form up. But, you know, these are going to be custom unit formations. So kind of depends on how you want to experiment with this. Anyway, so that is available for those of you who want to just kind of play around with this. Otherwise, you can just, listen to me tell you how I do this and just kind of copy it, And for my left and right flanks will be my spears screening my battlefield ninjas. Now, in some ways, this is going to be kind of similar to my Shimazu army composition, the way that it's deployed, but not quite. There's going to be some serious differences, obviously. And in this formation, it's going to be about shielding the battlefield ninja so that they can either support the Yari Samurai in whatever engagement they are in, or they can support the center by coming in here and hitting the flanks. And if the center is being really heavily pushed, I can have my own Yari Cav, try to maybe put them in wedge formation and they can hit gaps here, try to stop units that are charging into my archers. Now, against infantry, maybe I wouldn't be so worried about this, but if it's against cavalry, first off, Yari Cav have a bonus versus cavalry. And if I can intercept a cav unit before they hit my archers, I would prefer that, because even though they have +1 honor, it's still an archer unit. So you should try to make sure that they're not taking a full head-on charge from heavy cav. At the same time, though, I like having the archers screen the Nodachi Samurai. This is a unit that should be getting charges off and not taking charges. And as you know, I'm going to be facing off the Takeda and their cav heavy faction. And in addition to that, they have a low armor value as well. So if they're getting shot, that's going to be very bad as well for your Nodachi Samurai. So if I can stop units from charging my archers, and if I can stop units from, charging and shooting at my Nodachi Samurai, that is going to be the preferred option here. Let's get my reserves back into line. And something that I wanted to talk about, because I think that when people talk about like strategy in video games and RTSs and stuff like that in Total War games, is that people talk about flanking like it's the most obvious and easiest thing to do. And maybe it is for other people, but I think that for me, in my experience, it seems like the AI typically understands, as a real life army would, that they're vulnerable on their flanks and that they should make sure that they're not flanked. And that's one of those things that I think that video games is sort of misinformed in a lot of, battlefield tacticians, is that we think like, yeah, flank, always flank. And I don't, it's really hard to flank in general. And I personally think it's well represented in Total War games, because of what I just said, the AI knows that that's where their vulnerabilities are. And the reason why I think that it's more challenging than people might think is that it takes time and distance to cover that, to get to a place where you're threatening a flank. And typically what that means is isolating one of your sections of your army so that they're not supported by your other sections of your army. And while those units might achieve some sort of distraction, objective, they might do some damage, they might get into the archers, yada, yada, yada. Typically, those forces are going to be taking a lot of damage. They might get completely destroyed. You might still win the battle, but that flanking force a lot of times is going to get stopped, because you can stop a flanking force that's isolated. That's why it's so hard to flank. They're going to be taking a morale hit by being surrounded by enemies, and not going to be receiving the morale bonus of being around their own friendly troops. So I think of flanking, there's more than one way to do it. You don't have to go around to the outside. Flanking, you just have to get the enemy to present a flank to you. And there's ways to do that without having to make that journey and make that risk, actually. And that's why I like this modular battlefield plans, is because you can kind of make the enemy open themselves up to you like an onion. You can have your flanks kind of present like this. And then the enemy, what do they want to do? Do they want to attack your center and give up their flank to your flanking unit? Or do they want to attack one of your flanking units, presenting their flanks to your center, right? Or do they want to be attacking center and one of the flanks, leaving, their entire rear open into your far side flank, your left flanking unit, right? So it's kind of like making them open themselves up to you, rather than you doing the work of going around them. And what happens if they just attack all sections equally, well, that means that you have to win one of those sections. Ideally, more than one of those sections. If that's a head-on fight, which is probably what we're going to get here, this is a completely flat map, something that you don't want to be fighting cavalry on typically. That's why I realized I was like I used to play my custom battle fights on very hard difficulty because that's the difficulty that I play my campaigns on. But then I was like, man, I'm losing these fights. Why is that happening? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm like fighting. There's like no advantages. There's nothing you can do here. And very hard difficulty gives the AI bonuses. And campaign bonuses can be mitigated by having your own armies be experienced and whatnot. But then I started playing my custom battles on hard difficulty just to make sure that they don't do stupid things. I don't want them to present their general just to get shot by my archers and guns. That also ruins the experimentation of the battlefield. But it definitely can be tricky because, you know, in many cases we will be facing an onslaught across the entire section. And in that case, it's important for me to win in at least one section. And I think in this case, it would be my center. Being supported by my Yari Cav, I think I could break through a lot of stuff. So let's see what the Takeda will be bringing here. One thing I forgot to mention is that to make sure that your Nodachi Samurai are on engage at will, while your archers and your spears are on hold formation and hold position. So the Battlefield Ninja is going to be a little bit of both. You want these guys to be on engage at will, but you want them to be on hold position so that they don't skirmish back when the enemy gets too close. So yeah, the units that are meant to be doing the killing, you want to engage at will, and the units that are meant to be like, you know, holding and whatnot, the spears and the archers, that is their job, have them on hold position. And then Cav, you just always have them on engage at will. There's no point in having, you know, locked formations with those guys. And let's see what the Takeda want to do here. So it looks like they're going to be splitting their forces off. Okay. So Yari Cav on that side. And is that all their Yari Cav? Yeah, 3 units of Yari Cav on that side. And that's going to mean... No, so that's 2 Yari Cav and 1 Heavy Cav. And on this side, it's going to be 2 Heavy Cav, 1 Yari Cav. Okay, so they're going to be doing like a split push on me, trying to use a little pincer action. And in my head, my army should do okay against that push because we're kind of, you know, designed to counter that. Let's try to keep my spears in a deep formation set and sort of like here as well. And let's just make sure that my reserves hug my line. Based on what I'm seeing here, my center can definitely break their center. It's just going to be about my flanks holding out against this cavalry onslaught. So let's tuck my flanks in. A bit more on this side and then on this side as well. Because this way, my center can support my flanks, right? I have... Oh, yeah, let me put these guys on wedge formation. And they want to bring forward 1 archer unit at a time. That's fine. This is typical for AI behavior to kind of test things out here. And my 2 archers in the front can obviously out-skirmish their 1 at a time. And even if this unit wants to take some pot shots at my spears, that is fine, okay. They can take those shots, okay. The Takeda archer unit has now gone into loose formation to present a more difficult target, and that is fine. Let's put my Yari Cav into wedge formation on either side. And what do we see here? So Yari Cav is going to be on their flanks, okay. And Heavy Cav. So we don't have to protect against an internal charge, a Cav charge on my center. We have to be more prepared to protect my flanks with my Yari Cav, right? So with the Battlefield Ninja, I think we can throw our little ninja stars over the heads of my spears and into the Cav units that will be presenting themselves. So let's get a little charge here, and then here, and then here. Let's try to get these guys into those spears, and let's make sure that we're shooting there, and then let's get a charge here against those guys, and then here, let's just keep an eye on this. And that's going to be Yari Cav, right? Yeah, let's get a charge on those Yari Cav. And they're going to be doing a split. So let's go here and then, ooh, okay, what are they doing? All right, let's go here. And then let's bring Battlefield Ninjas up to support that. So we're breaking their center. That's looking okay. Let's bring up my general to make sure that he's supporting fire. And Battlefield Ninjas, we're breaking them on this side. Are we? Yes, we are. Perfect. Perfect. That's looking good. Nodachi Samurai, get back, please, and thank you. And it looks like we broke them on this side too. So it's not a full break. It's not a full break. That's the thing with Cav armies. You can never trust a break. Is it a break or is it a feint? So they might just be regrouping. Let's get my center and, well, my entire army, that is. Let's get them all regrouped so that they cannot pull us apart here and then here. That's another reason why I like to use these group formations, is because it's really easy to get an army back together after you have, after you've broken the enemy. Yeah, you guys have to get back. Get back, get back, get back. Yuri Cav are about to get caught out here by some heavy Cav. If we can draw them into my spears, that'd be perfect. Yeah, this is perfect, actually. If Yuri Cav want to come back here, and yeah, Battlefield Ninja are hanging out. That's looking okay. That's looking okay. So now my 4 archers are now firing out into their army here, and we can take a bit of skirmishing. I know that they have 3 Cav archers, and there we can get that attack in, and it's not the prettiest. Let's just have the spears help out here. That's fine. And then, ooh, they're getting a little chargey poo here as well. Okay. Let's get a charge there and then there. And then Yari Cav can countercharge that. That's fine. And then it's tempting. What's this? Yari Cav? Okay, so let's just hold our position here. And then Yari Cav are running away. They're doing another break. Yeah, that's looking good. All right, that looks okay. It's very tempting. I want to push, because these Cav archers are just going to be shooting at us, so I definitely want to keep pushing here. Push here. Yari Cav, get back, please, and thank you. And then right flank can push up as well. Those are heavy Cav, so yeah, you guys can get back, please. Let's keep the general moving up here. And then, let's see, heavy Cav. All right, let's chase these guys, because now there's no supporting units, really. Let's support with my infantry. And then, yeah, let's get these Yari Cav into those Cav archers. And that's all archers. So let's just continue to push on them. And those are archers as well, so that my Cav can charge on them. Let's put them into close formation instead of wedge, so they don't take as much fire from those archers. And then general, keep pushing up. So there's a push. So now that we have guys behind their lines, I don't want to really, leave them unsupported. So let's just push up with my army here. And we're going to break those archers on that side. Let's push up my right flank. And we're just going to slow push them. Yeah, I might lose this Yari Cav unit. I didn't really mean them to get, caught out like this. But now the enemy's in a position where they have Nodachi in the front, and they have Yari Cav in the back. So it's not really an ideal position for them. Let's just keep moving up here, and there is the victory. So I wonder, did the Battlefield Ninja get anything done? This unit literally got 0 kills, but also 0 killed. But this unit did get 35 kills for 7 men lost. 1 point of honor was gained. And so that's the other thing with the Battlefield Ninjas. They gain honor quickly because they have low unit sizes. So yeah, they get better fast. So even though that means that 12 men, so it's a 12 men in a unit, so that means only 5 men survived from this unit, but that's going to be like a really good, 5 men. And so when you do merge together high honor Battlefield Ninja units, you're going to get these really like insanely good units throughout the campaign. And that's another thing that I wanted to, experiment more with in my own campaigns. So how are we looking here? Cav archers, my general, 26 kills, Yari Cav 56 and 60. Yari Samurai, 21, 3, 14, and 12. So yeah, very basic stuff for the frontline infantry. Samurai archers, 42, 37, 49, and 42. Very well-rounded. Nodachi Samurai. This is almost like my own backbone in a way. 56, 81, 29. And then Ninja, as we said, 35 and 0. So they can have their uses for sure. I don't even know. I'm trying to think. Was that my left flank or my right flank? Must have been my right flank. Yeah, I don't think my left flank really fought much. But in any case, so that's going to be it for my Imagawa Army Faction Guide. Let me know what you think. I think it's a pretty fun, army comp. It's definitely not like super overpowered. And I think there can be fun applications for using Battlefield Ninjas. I think the safest and like most conservative way of using them is how I just showed you in this battle. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there probably can be more experimental, more fun ways of using them. It just kind of involves taking that risk, So in any case, that's going to be it for this one. And until next time, this has been Concept playing Shogun Total War. Thank you very much and goodbye.